What is poppin'? This is Slapton. I'm but a lowly Slapton riding these ReFi waves. And this is This Week in ReFi, where we give you all the ReFi news that is fit to go ape wild over. Of course, with me is the man with the plan, the man with a summer tan, the Estonian, sometimes math, often madman, the new founder of Solidworld DAO, undefeated heavyweight champion of the world, Rez.
Hello, it's me.
We're going to talk about you being the undefeated heavyweight champion of the world, aka founding member of Solidworld DAO, a little bit later. But how are we feeling? We're back to work, are we not, Rez?
We are, and I am really rested. It took me a whole week to get back into like the crypto carbon refi mindset, but I'm here now, and I am very, very happy to be back. I mean, what is a normal day if not looking at a heaping pile of complexity and going like, how do I make sense of this, right?
They say absence makes the heart grow fonder. Now that you've been away from crypto and from refi and from carbon markets for a little while, do you find that to be true?
Yeah. I mean, I'm always fond when the market goes up. I'm like, huh. And when the market goes down, it's hilarious. And then like everywhere in the middle, everywhere in the middle, it's just fun. Like, what's the problem?
Well, I'll speak personally. Every time that we don't speak for the week in between our sessions, I miss you, Rez. So absence does make the heart grow fonder.
Yeah. I miss you too.
A lot of people don't know that we're not actually friends. We actually hate each other. You know, we're just so busy. We never have time to talk until we meet.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. We got a lot to talk about today, Rez. A ton to talk about today. There is so much going on, and what better place to start than in ReFi Jobs? Because, you know, as we were saying, ReFi is the place to be. It's where you want to be working. It's the future. It's awesome. And if you want high quality jobs, if you want high quality ReFi jobs, I got a curated job board just for you, free to join. You can be just like Rez, founder of your own project in no time. Do you want to?
In no time.
Have you ever wanted to be a founder of a project, Rez?
Not particularly, but I guess the need arises, and then you just got to do it.
So that's coming up next. I'll also say link to the ReFi Jobs in the description of this video. Also, if you enjoy our content, hit the like, subscribe, and leave a comment. Say welcome back, Rez. Say how's it going, you old so and so. Say whatever you want. Here's the story of the millennium. It's a tweet by this guy named Rez. And what is that? Is that a person, and a man in lotus position, and a tree icon? Oh, very interesting.
Yes.
He says this stranger, is excited to announce that I'm now serving as co-founder alongside Stenver Jerku. You say that better than I do. Needless to say, I'm as bullish as ever on Solidworld DAO's mission to make the forward. That's official. Co-founder.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So. Very long journey. It started, I think, somewhere in the long ago when we had the first ReFi hype cycle, and me and Stenver, we were both really experiencing what it is to set up a carbon project from nothing, and what it is to get financing for it, and how the market works. And we were just going like, oh my god, that is something. And finally, this was the exact same time where we had the first ReFi hype cycle, which was the Toucan Klima hype cycle, and it finally clicked, and we were like, "Oh man, this is potential. We can do something here. The tools are there." And Stenver, who had always been super bullish on crypto, super enthusiastic about what it can mean for the future of how we do things. And he was immediately like, "Yep, let's go. Gonna set up the team. Gonna get the money. Let's like incubate this thing. Let's make it happen." And I was still wrapping up my job as a product manager, and on the side, just trying to do as much as I could to push this thing forward. But I was just like really obsessed with carbon and crypto in the first place. It basically almost ruined my life at some point. I have spent way too much time researching, talking to, meeting people, writing documentation, everything. It's just been a wild journey, and as a next step here, since we did spin off of our parent company fully, and we're now like our own thing with our own control. I stepped up to be a co-founder with Stenmer. So we're gonna make beautiful things happen.
Yes, and I know you will. And so, what was the? A lot of people I think want maybe. A lot of people want success, right? Everybody wants success. They want to be the top dog. They want to be co-founder, etc. What was your What was the length of this process? Like, how long did it take for you to get to where you're at right now?
Well, Solidworld has been like in a project in process for I think like closing into a year soon. So that whole time it's been a bit of an obsession of mine. So I'm just I don't know, happy about that. But at the end of the day, I don't know. I don't have good advice. People are different, and it's
Agreed.
just I don't know. Find something that you're enthusiastic about and see where it takes you. No, that's about it.
That is good generic. Well, like you're right. People like there isn't a path to success. I hate when people say, "Oh, follow this one person and do exactly what they did," because you're not that one person, and you might not even have the same interest or ability, etc. But I think what one constant throughout all of successful people and just finding success in any space is patience and, like you said, passion. Right? If you have the two, you'll make it. Time and effort, man. Time and effort. But congratulations.
Yeah, and I personally wouldn't call myself like particularly successful yet. I mean, come on, we're building something. Like the success is in the future.
That's the patience part right there.
Yeah.
All right, good. So you brought up the second part, which is Solidworld DAO is happy to announce that it has spun out from eAgronom and has finalized the process of becoming an independent foundation. What is the story of this for those who do not know?
So eAgronom started as a side project of Stenver, who was a co-founder of eAgronom that makes farmers into carbon farmers in Eastern Europe. So this was also the company I was working at. But as is the way with these things, a side project needs to graduate into being a full project. And in that kind of a situation, there needs to be, a clear division of this is this project and that is that project, and there's like nothing in between anymore. So we fully are now in this position where the DAO is the DAO and eAgronom is eAgronom, and we are very appreciative of them helping us get here.
Very cool. So your journey from eAgronom turning farmers into carbon farmers has led you here. I'm very happy for you, and for Solidworld DAO, a bright future, I'm sure. Now that we've plugged ourselves, Rez,
yes,
let us get into the nitty-gritty of Verra and of crypto. And we have this tweet. This is from quite a while ago. It's this man named Ritchie with a T, Ritchie Torres. He says, "Crypto is the future. It could enable the poor to make payments and remittances without long delays." He goes on to exalt the values of crypto. And this may be relevant because I'm going to bring up a headline on Carbon Pulse. I cannot show the actual article because it's behind a paywall.
Yeah, we can't show it.
Don't want to violate that. But this Ritchie Torres is the U.S. congressman in this headline that asks Verra and ACR to restart tokenization of offsets. I will give you the honors of giving a brief synopsis of this article. How would you describe this to those who are not privileged to have access to this Carbon Pulse?
Well, I think he was just as disappointed as the rest of us that this stop came very abruptly, and he seems to be very enthusiastic, as you mentioned already, about the future of crypto and what it can do for people. The interesting thing I wanted to highlight in the end of this, however, was a Vera Statement that they gave in reply to this.
Is it spicy?
It is. Oh. It is the spiciest, non-attributed comment I've seen Vera make, which is quite saying something.
Let's get spicy, Rez. Let's get it.
So the quote is, "To ensure market integrity, the system must have adequate know your customer processes, and registries must be able to track and trace credits through to retirement." Okay, fair enough, right?
Fair enough. We agree.
Sure. Yeah, we agree. Yeah, but the second statement Contrary to some claims, tokenization as implemented last year muddled transparency and confused the public while adding nothing positive to the functioning of the market.
Oh no.
What? What?
Oh no! It sounds like there goes ReFi.
I don't know.
They've rugged ReFi again. Well, this is not the official stance, but you know, if this were the official stance, if this wasn't just one person's opinion, that's the end of BCT. You know.
Yeah.
Well, what do you think about this? Do you think what is the validity of this claim? We can break it down because there's many claims there. We can start with the most egregious one, which is no value, right? I think that was the wording, something like that. Like, not true, right? Let's the no value thing isn't true. Bringing things on chain, at the very least, has potential, and potential is value. So, wrong. Yeah. What about muddling transparency?
Transparency.
Yeah.
Well, every single offset that was ever tokenized can be tracked exactly where it is right now, and if it's retired, we know that it's retired. The process has been unbroken. There are no fake credits anywhere. Everything's accounted for. The accounting works. It's public. You can check everything. So the statement that this is somehow not transparent feels like incredibly disingenuous and perhaps made by somebody that's not familiar with the tech. But I find it very frustrating that some unnamed representative of Vera would say something like this, to the media. It's just like mind-blowing, especially after, I think this week, I haven't watched it, but the Vera CEO was in a Clubhouse chat where he did seem to be optimistic or make people optimistic about the future of tokenization. So it's kind of unclear of like what the hell is happening in the middle there. And how do you end up with a statement of saying like it adds nothing positive?
You said it, Rez, is like, you and I hear rumblings. I have sources talking about what's going on, and they're saying that it seems positive. And then you get things like this. It tells me that there's either a lack of cohesion inside of Vera, or it tells you like the information isn't being properly distributed, or it just means that there is an ideological divide in Vera, where there are some people who want to do this and some people who just do not. And I would bet that that's probably what's going on.
Or they're telling everybody what they want to hear, which is also a very worrying scenario here. I have no idea. I have no idea what the hell is happening here. I mean, we could spend half an hour just explaining how liquidity infrastructure actually helps the carbon market, but nothing? Really? You're going to say nothing?
Right. That's the bridge too far. Like, and if you want to make, okay, well, here's the question I'd have is, we know every carbon credit that's been brought on chain. Do we know every actor who's brought that on chain? Probably not,
nope.
Right?
But Vera does.
But Vera does. Okay, so it might be lack of transparency for the plebs like you and I, but it would not be for them. So that's also in a way a disingenuous claim. Very interesting.
Vera does know everybody that has brought anything on chain because they needed a Vera account to do that. There's a transaction that is viewable publicly of this tokenization happening on Vera's side that exists. Everything on Vera's side is completely trackable. The only thing that they might not know is who retired it.
Right.
That's the only element of this whole picture that is not transparent at the moment. Because somebody might anonymously retire something. Who cares?
Right. Yeah. Any claim that blockchain makes TradFi less transparent is, I won't say always wrong, but like 99.9% of the time wrong, because that is one of the hallmarks of a digital public decentralized ledger, is that it is transparent. That's one of the use cases, the arguments for DLT, decentralized ledger technology, is it's transparent. All right. Yeah. So we're still going to have to wait.
Very confusing.
Very confusing. We're still going to have to wait for Vera. I know that talks are happening. Who knows, Rez? Anything else you want to add? Any more predictions?
I think this is just an indicator of how early we are.
I think you're right. Nobody knows what's up.
Yeah, I mean, sometimes just people don't get it, and maybe they hear one small criticism and then they discount an entire space. I think this has also happened multiple times with people in carbon. So I'm kind of confused coming from the perspective of a person that works in the carbon industry. How do you fall into the same trap of maybe hearing like a few points of negative news and then your conclusion being, I am going to discount this entire space, like entirely. Because this is kind of the message that this person sent with wording it like this.
Agreed. Yeah, I don't know. I don't have an answer for that.
Yeah.
It could be ideologically driven. It could be ignorance. Maybe you're giving people too much credit. They don't actually know what's going on. Maybe they have a very specialized role in this organization and they couldn't be bothered to learn about crypto. Maybe it's that, and I'm not saying this is the case. I'm just thinking of all the possibilities. It could be that they're on somebody's payroll. You know, it could just be good old fashioned, you know, personal self-interest. It could be money, yeah. And you know, stranger things have happened, but we shall see. More positive news is the Open Forest Protocol, which we've talked. They're very active. This is a DMRV, and they are now responsible for 20,000 hectares. That's European talk of forest in Nigerian to be transparently monitored on OFP. I was saying before this that 20,000 hectares is a fair amount. And you were like, meh. And that's probably because I'm an imperialist swine on the imperialist. You know, there's 3 countries that are on the imperial system, Rez. America, Myanmar, and one other country, like random. That's it. Mm-hmm. Everybody else is on metric. Even Britain, the UK, who started the imperial system? Did you know that?
Yeah.
You didn't know that. Okay.
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
All right.
But you know, the metric system still superior. Americans, get over yourselves. Thank you.
Yeah, there you go. 20,000 hectares. If we had to put that into a maybe a way for people to less abstract, maybe in soccer fields, football fields, as the Europeans would say. What is a soccer field in a hectare? Do we have any idea? Should we Google it?
To football fields.
Yeah.
Let's see.
How many hectares is a football field?
So this is 1.8 football fields.
That's it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I thought it was.
Wait, no. No. Sorry, I'm dumb. 1 hectare is 1.8 football fields.
This is 20,000 football fields. That's good.
Yeah.
I think that's.
It's pretty big. Like it's pretty big, but there definitely are carbon projects that are like a lot larger than this.
I'm sure. Yeah.
But it's like an average sized carbon project, or you know, somewhere in the average. It's very hard to run carbon projects with small pieces of land, so they tend to be like this kind of size.
Right. Well, this is you know. We've been talking a lot about Open Forest Protocol. They seem to be getting funding. Now they got projects. They had another 3,000 hectare one that we're not talking about, but this is the bigger one. And then they showed a nice roadmap. Let me see if I can pull that up. Here's an update. We found out that it's actually 46,000 football fields, more than we thought it was. And to add to this is OFP has a roadmap out. I love roadmaps. I like protocols that have roadmaps, man. I like the accountability. You know, a lot of protocols are afraid to put out roadmaps because they say, well, what if we don't hit our goals? Well, then you update your goals. And, you know, that's that. But here we go. Q3 2000, that's not too far away. Mainnet in progress. Then Q4, we have a token sale. Then Q1 of next year, validation begins. And then in 2023, broadly speaking, there's a wallet, a collateral area, an OFP starter, enable carbon financing. Are you excited for OFP, Sir Rez?
Of course. I mean, they're doing cool stuff. I like cool stuff. Let's do more cool stuff.
DMRV, man. I you know, there's just such a need for it, and I think they're gonna, you know, they're going to find, they're already finding a market. I don't think they'll have any problem finding a market. If you have good DMRV tech, if you're able to monitor and verify carbon projects digitally in a less capital intensive way.
Intensive.
And then also like think of, if you're able to do it via satellite or something like that versus sending a person to the actual site, I mean, you're already ahead of the game in terms of carbon emissions. So, we need it. It's not an option. We need it. So good on them. All right.
Yep. So, let's get some good data going.
Let's get some good data going. Well, here's some good data that we're going to need to pull is Klima's inverse bonds. We're going to get some data on this. You like this stuff, so I'm going to let you take this. Tell me about Klima DAO's inverse bonding. What's going on?
Okay, so I hope everybody knows what bonds are in the Olympus DAO style model, but let's do a refresh on what Olympus style bonds are. So the idea is the easiest way I could explain this is a continuous fundraising model, essentially. So instead of you buying Klima tokens from the open market, what you can do instead is bring them stuff that the DAO wants, and in exchange they will mint you new tokens. And this is based on the current market price, and they will buy these assets for a premium and give you more tokens than you would have gotten probably from buying them on the open market. But there is a catch. The catch is you don't get these tokens immediately. You get them in about 7 days or something. It really depends on the bond, but the deal is you give them something valuable upfront. They give you their token in a couple of days. The effect of this is that it doesn't make people do that whole thing where they buy assets, get the token, immediately sell off the token, repeat it again and again, because this would have very negative impacts on the price. So the delay is there to spread out the sell pressure. So now on the other side, we have this thing called an inverse bond, which is the exact opposite. So they are willing to sell you tokens, and they are willing to sell you tokens from their own treasury in return for Klima. And they will do so at a discount again. And you will get these tokens, I believe, sometime in the future. Correct me if I'm wrong. Or do you get it immediately? That is an interesting question.
I do believe you'd be getting it over time. I haven't done it. All my Klima is locked up in C3, so I'm a liquid. But my understanding would be it has the same smart contract as the regular bonds, where you're going to give in some asset, in this case Klima, and get USDC over time. And it even runs on the same variable. You called it a Dutch style auction, right? So it's all algorithmically set. The more demand there is, the discount gets pushed negative or gets pushed towards zero and then eventually into the negatives. So at a positive discount, you're going to get more value out of Klima than you would if you brought it to an automatic market maker. And if you are in a negative situation, you're better off selling it to an AMM.
Yes. Quick correction. Yes. When you do inverse bonds, you get paid out immediately. I was just thinking it. Yeah, I was just thinking it wouldn't make really sense to hold your USDC for a while. I mean, what does anybody get out of that?
That's right. That makes sense.
Yeah. So it's essentially they're buying back their own token. We can just say it like that. They're buying back their own token through this mechanism. And the benefits of buying out their own token like this is that it removes a lot of the sell pressure that Klima has been seeing. Cue the very dramatic chart, but essentially the token value is at a point where their treasury assets are worth more than the total of the tokens, which for this kind of a model, is a kind of perverse situation.
Yeah, you're keeping the sell pressure off the automatic market makers, which help stabilize the price, right? Because this buy pressure, you can think of it almost as OTC, over the counter. No, it's not going to be recorded on any AMM, so the price, if all sell pressure routed through this way, the price would not be affected. Which is good psychologically. Now, the drawbacks to this, the obvious drawback would be: do you have the capital? Do you have the USDC necessary to sustain this, absorption of sell pressure over the appropriate amount of time? I believe it's 1.5 million USD has been earmarked for this inverse bond, I believe. So I mean, and that can go quick, right? So you limit that with your bond capacity. You make it so that if there's a lot of demand for these bonds, that it quickly goes into a non-profitable situation for the bonder, and you could ultimately turn it off if need be. But it's worked for Olympus thus far, and it'll be interesting to see what happens with Klima. You and I have talked about this before. The difference, obviously, is that Klima has mostly in its treasury carbon credits that do not have a lot of organic demand for them. So, the USD that they're going through, which is not the majority of the treasury, if that gets burnt and spent, the next line of defense would be BCT, something like that, and that would not fly because in my opinion, because the organic demand for it isn't there, and you would just have a race to zero, right?
Selling off BCT is a bit more problematic, yes, because the buyer on the other end is Klima's own liquidity, which is as like a sum doesn't really change anything other than lower BCT's price, I think.
That's it. Yep. So we'll keep an eye on that. Of course, also we should make mention of this good news from Klima DAO. Sushiswap votes to let traders offset carbon emissions via Klima Infinity. There was a governance vote that will allow users of Sushiswap to opt in to click a button and offset their carbon emissions. One of the cooler things I think that's actually happened, I give Klima a lot of credit. What says you, Rez, about this project or this partnership?
I really like it. I mean, it's exactly this vision of carbon money Legos on the blockchain, right? So this is the direct vision of, hey, we have a token, and now this token can interact with protocols, and because it can interact with protocols, we can have regenerative protocols, and it's super dope. And as a second cool thing, I would like to emphasize this: 99% of voters who voted on this proposal voted yes.
Yeah.
So that's dope.
That is
what do
they call it, a mandate? That's a mandate.
Yeah. If there ever was a bullish signal on offsets on chain, that's it, I think. So good job, Klima DAO, for making this happen, and I'm looking forward to seeing this being implemented.
Absolutely. And good job on the Sushi governance voters. Because they could have said, go pound sand. We don't want to open ourselves up to, skepticism. We don't want to have any contract risk. Not that I don't think they would, but, it shows that the spirit of people are willing to get on board the ReFi movement if it's convenient for them. And I think one of the things that Klima did to position this as a win-win is they said, don't worry about engineering. We'll handle that. We'll handle that side of it. And nothing to lose on Sushi's end. So hopefully we see more of this stuff. So good on Klima DAO for that. All right, so that was the ReFi news. A lot of juicy ReFi news, but then we get into even juicier, I'll call it crypto news, right? So we got this
macro news.
Some macro news. Yeah, Bitcoin price builds best weekly candle since March. Things pumped yesterday and the day before, mostly yesterday. And I think it's interesting. Bitcoin surged to 22,000. I think it was like a little under 20K. My thought on this is it's a scam. None of this is financial advice. I can say that right off the bat. But my thought was scam pump. What was your thought? Did you have a thought? Were you following the markets?
I think there's this term called like a dead cat bounce, I believe is the technical term for this. So if a market goes down for long enough, there usually is some sort of rally, which if the sentiment is still actually bad, it's just gonna dump again. Also, expecting the crypto markets to be completely rational in terms of what the volatility does, I don't think is a very productive way to use time. But it's always interesting that every time these sorts of events happen, there are news sites that try to explain exactly why is this price movement happening.
I love that. I love that when someone looks at one or two variables in an infinitely complex system, multivariate system, and says, this is the reason why. It's like, with certainty. The proper way to say any of this is, I believe that this accounts for some of the reason. There's never... Dude, when I was modding Klima and people, why is the price going down? I just wanted to say, like, what answer...
People are selling. Yeah, what do you want to know?
Do you know how many inputs there are in the system? Like, you know, John X over here had to pay medical bills. I have no idea. Like, yes, anyway, go ahead. That's my diatribe.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, so... I like this passage from, I believe it was Thinking Fast and Slow, if you've ever read this book.
I know of it, but I haven't read it, yeah.
Yeah, there's some term called like regression to the mean. So generally things go back to some sort of an average, but we always have very good explanations for why everything is happening. So I think the example they brought there were sports commentators who observed a ski jumper do 2 very good ski jumps, and then they were like, okay, and now this person is very flustered. I don't think they're gonna make a good jump, and then they don't do a good jump because the last 2 jumps were very unlikely good, you know. Right. But the explanation is like, oh, it definitely had a very good reason for it. And you know, sometimes you just don't need to explain things, but your brain has this, I need to explain it.
I always think of people as meaning-making machines. It is our...
Yes, meme machines. We are meme machines.
We hate uncertainty. We hate not knowing. And if we don't know, we'll invent answers and we'll come up with wild explanations for things. The regression to the mean thing. So I'm really into like, you know, flying plane. I don't do it, but I like, I don't have the money to do it, but I'm really into learning about it. And so this is a really cool thing, is the way planes are designed is that if you get a downdraft or an updraft that displaces your, you know, your altitude by a certain amount, what you should do is put no inputs into your yoke, because the plane is designed to rebound or get back to where it was. So the more choppy air is, the less inputs. That's like the cardinal mistake of like novice pilots, is to start overcorrecting. And I always think of prices that way. Like something pushes price down, you know, its natural inclination is to go back to where it was. So that's my way.
Yeah, I agree. And I mean, we can sit here and speculate about like price movements, and it's pretty fun. Sometimes we have very good reasons, like a few of the ones we're gonna mention later. Right. But sometimes it's just, you know, people feeling optimistic today.
I think it's drunk people during the 4th of July. I really do. I was like, dude, I was joking.
Yeah,
about
I should really get into crypto now.
I think it was people like sitting around July 3rd, July 4th with their buddies, and like, oh, you got to buy this crypto, and they're all feeling good. They're all wasted, and they're like, yeah, why not? They get on like, you know, Gemini or whatever, Coinbase. Buy it. I say go. I was saying I buy. I was saying. Long the drunk, short the hangover, and sure enough, July 5th came and the market's dumped. Anyway, so this Bitcoin price flies in the face of our next story, which is Fed hawks signal downshift in U.S. rate hikes after July. I think this is a wildly misleading headline, because the story, they're focusing on the rate hikes going down, I believe, in the headline. But what they didn't mention after July, they didn't mention is that in July, we're going to have a 75 basis point interest rate increase. And then after that, in September, a 0.5 or 50 basis point, which basically means we're going to go up 1.25%, which is very significant. And all of this seems to be pointing to a slowdown in the economy, a pullback, less liquidity, less capital in the system, people becoming risk off. So, like, again, why did the crypto markets go up in the face of this news? What, you know, I want you to tell me. Give me the reason, Rez.
I think the generic explanation here is it was priced in. It was priced in.
I
like,
think that.
There were a bunch of smart people around the table, and they were like, we are going to see the future. The Fed has to raise rates, and we're going to factor this into our complex model, which tells us how much Bitcoin is worth, because those models exist, apparently, for someone, I guess. And then they went through all of that, and they were like, oh, yeah, this price seems good. Like, it's undervalued, apparently.
I think that's it. I think that's my guess to this as well, is that a lot of the downturn in crypto had priced in these future Fed hikes because of either inside information or just, you know, predicting it correctly. A lot of people
forecast, yeah,
a lot of people understood that you looked at CPI, you looked at inflation numbers, they were wild. The Fed had to rein them in eventually, and you know, now is the time. so to speak. So there you go, man. Crypto's pumping in the face of this bad news because markets are irrational and or complicated. And speaking of irrational and
irrational or priced in
or priced
or both.
in,
Who knows?
So speaking of complicated, I guess more than irrational, maybe both. Crypto lender Voyager digital files for bankruptcy. Yet another one bites the dust, as they say. Crypto, it's a lending protocol, similar to any centralized exchange or lending protocol. It's done. Significant one. Have you ever used Voyager, Rez?
Nope. I don't think I've ever used any centralized centralized crypto thing for lending. That has never like really spoken to me, to be honest.
Yeah.
I've always enjoyed having custody if I'm gonna do something like this, and if I have custody, I might as well do it on chain, where I can just trust the code to execute, and I can trust the assets to actually be there. A lot of these centralized entities, as I believe we talked 2 weeks ago, aren't really into transparency in any like meaningful degree. So it's very hard to understand exactly why they are promising the returns that they're promising, and that ends up with situations like this, which I believe are a symptom of we are hungover from a really bad bull market, basically.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think we were all imbibing a little bit too much bullish sentiment, and this is the hangover, man. So, Voyager, my understanding was one of their creditors was 3AC. And 3AC, as we know, went bankrupt, or we will know, had their problems, and they could not repay a loan. So it's like the word is crypto contagion. So we're having this spread of bankruptcies because everything's connected. Everybody was borrowing from everybody else. So it's just this chain effect of defaults. So we should get into 3AC. And here it is. 3AC files for bankruptcy as Voyager Digital suspends withdrawals. This happened a little bit
as a surprise to no one.
As a surprise to no one. So another one, 3AC was playing loose and fast. We talked about this a couple weeks ago. Loose and fast with people's money. They were investing in risky assets. They were co-mingling funds together. I would say improperly, probably even illegally if you're in the TradFi world.
They were offering money management services to protocols they helped fund, and then they now ghosted them. So I'm assuming these protocols are not going to get their money back, which is a very worrying part of this contagion, because oh my god, I don't know who they funded. I haven't gone deep into this, but I think those people are going to be very mad and have a huge problem on their hands.
I think you're right, 100%. So, one of the complicated things with these stories is like all the chapters of bankruptcy in America. There's a bunch of different ways to declare bankruptcy, and they mean different things. This one basically means that it protects the U.S.'s the assets in the U.S., but because it's multinational and they have a presence in the British Virgin Islands, as an example, the British Virgin Islands can demand that they liquidate their assets to pay off their debt. It is a freaking mess, is the long and short of it. And I personally, not financial advice, don't think we're anywhere near max pay in crypto because of the Fed hikes, because of this contagion. And I'm keeping my cash on hand. What do you say about that?
Kind of same, to be honest. But yeah. It's like, I don't know. I heard some speculation that maybe the pain is over, but reading this makes me... I think the thing we both were surprised about when we were looking over this article was the fact that they had to do this so their assets in that country couldn't be confiscated to cover the bankruptcy in another country. And then my immediate response was, wait, they still have assets? I thought they liquidated everything. Oh no.
So when you liquidate, and this is something that people should be aware of, when, if these big institutions are liquidating hundreds of millions of dollars worth of Bitcoin, something like that, that means they're selling it. And when you sell hundreds of millions, like I don't care what the market maker is, like that pushes price significantly down. Because what's the significant liquidity for something like Bitcoin? You might be a couple $100 million, maybe $1 billion, and they could be selling that much worth of Bitcoin. Usually it's done OTC or aggregated, but it's gonna hurt.
It is. It's gonna be weird, and just I don't know, like the fact that crypto is in the regulatory situation that it is in, and that there are centralized services that do stuff like this, is like kind of a double whammy of bad things will happen.
Yeah.
I think it's basically guaranteed that if you have the opportunity for something like this to happen, there will be very sketchy people doing sketchy shit with your money in the background. And they think they can get away with it, which, I don't know, maybe they can.
Maybe they did. And so maybe one who did is the Celsius network. Lawsuit accuses crypto lender Celsius network of fraud. We were losing our minds over this story. A former investment manager at Celsius network sued Celsius, and it says it was using customer deposits to rig the price of its own crypto token. Celsius has a native token called Cell. We don't know exactly what this means, but we're speculating what this means is it was taking the funds that I deposited, because I'm a depositor to Celsius, and buying its own token up.
Yep.
If
and
this is
you know
true,
what the and you know what the consequence of that is?
What is that?
Celsius paid out a bunch of its yields or returns in the Cell token. So if a Cell token looks like it's worth more, the APY that you're looking at is worth more. The problem is that you'll hold it in the belief that it's going to go up. But the reality of this situation is that the first person out the door wins, which is so painful. I mean, sometimes these prices are just like so illusory, and the moment like a huge whale dumps everything, you'll be like, ah, oh, cool, okay, you know.
We should have this conversation because we had it privately. Like we were talking about this is the trouble in valuating crypto tokens, particularly governance tokens, right? Or even utility tokens. And one of the challenges we were discussing was when you look at TradFi, you're looking at Amazon, Google, they have earnings reports, and you can make a valuation of the company's worth based on how much value they're generating in cash. You don't get that with Ethereum. Ethereum doesn't generate cash. It has value locked on it, but it does the same thing with the governance of Cell. Like, what is it actually worth? And then you brought up another good point. I'll let you explain it about how we just gave an example of chicanery with the value of Cell token, presumably. But what would be like another example with Curve and all that?
Well, how you would give value to Curve is essentially what is the value of voting in Curve, right? But predicting that is kind of interesting because surprise, somebody has actually monetized voting in Curve. It's called Convex. They have built-in bribes. It feels like a lot of governance tokens voting power is eventually going to be monetized one way or another. So if you're holding like some sort of again, not financial advice, pure speculation, but if you're holding a governance token and there is a player, for instance, I don't know, your Uniswap and a really big blockchain with billions in grant money wants you to go on their blockchain, someone like Uniswap might say, hey, put it to a vote, our DAO will vote, and now you've created you've created a situation where this very rich blockchain might be bribing Uniswap token holders in order to get Uniswap to deploy there. There are like options like this, and these are like very hard to understand what's that actually worth, since who knows.
I think the word you said was beautiful, illusory. These valuations which aren't tied much to any real world asset generation and can be pumped up by what you said, a whale, or deflated by a whale, or a bribe, or in this case perhaps malfeasance. It becomes very difficult for anybody to evaluate the value of tokens, and let alone like a novice or somebody who's just looking at charts, doesn't know what crypto is. This thing always goes up, right? And they get slaughtered. So
and the reality is that I think we're still very early in the learning process of what exactly is a token worth, and that is also why the market is so volatile, because no one really knows.
No one really knows, but that's at the same time, that's where you make money in the volatility. So that's why people are driven to this.
Traders love volatility. That's how you make money.
So this could be some volatility. So speaking of Celsius, they've moved $529 million worth of wrapped Bitcoin to FTX exchange. Should we be worried is the title. And so the context of this is Celsius was massively over leveraged, and they're trying to deleverage, and they're trying to free up their collateral. So they're paying back loans, and they just freed up $529 million worth of their collateral, which is wrapped Bitcoin, and they're moving it to an exchange. Now, when people move, this is one thing that traders track, is the inflows and outflows to exchanges, because presumably when you move assets to an exchange, the signal you're sending is that you're going to sell or at least considering selling, right? I'm not going to keep my assets on a centralized exchange or any exchange because it's going to expose me to risk of losing my assets unless I want to sell it. I'm primed to sell it. But this says there's two options. Maybe they're trying to sell this off because they want to get money and pay off their, further debt, or it's that they're turning their wrap Bitcoin into normal Bitcoin. Should we be worried, Rez? Or go ahead.
Or they're using their Bitcoin as collateral for short and long positions, and that they're going to the casino trying to bet it all on black to make sure, somehow get out of this.
If they are, if Celsius if they're playing that game, we just lost everybody's money game once, and now we're gonna make it back by betting everything on black or 00, right, on the roulette wheel.
Yeah.
1, F them. 2, they're legends at the same time. They're legends. It's incredible.
Yeah. I mean, after all of what we've seen, I think I don't think there's gonna be a Celsius in 1 year. Like even if they make money at this point, it's
over.
It's a foregone conclusion. They're gonna get litigated to hell. I think the things that we're seeing coming out of there seem very worrying.
Yeah. Well, not only as a user, and I've talked to other users, it's like the question I always ask them is, if they become liquid again and solvent, are you gonna take your assets out? They're like, of course. So that's that. They might be able to recover financially, but they're not going to recover from a reputation perspective. The only way they could do that is if a reputable organization buys them out and the ownership gets changed. And from what I've heard, there aren't too many people lining up to do that. I think FTX took a look at their books and said, nope. Goldman Sachs offered to buy them out at a discount. So you and I were saying that, the best thing for somebody like me who has assets that are basically liquid right now is that Celsius does not get bought out by somebody like Goldman Sachs, because Goldman Sachs is going to buy it up and liquidate their assets, and I'm going to get nothing or pennies. What I actually want is for Celsius to be given the opportunity to exist for the next 2 years, however long it takes, to get their staked ETH to turn into regular ETH, become liquid, and then to turn their deposits right now that they have under management into conservative yield investments, and eventually get back to solvent or liquid. And then at that point, we'll all bounce.
Yeah, I don't think it's gonna happen. That will be a dream, but
it is. That's exactly what it is. It's a dream. We shall see. A very eventful week in crypto.
Yeah.
In ReFi. Anything you're looking forward to in the next coming weeks, months, other than being a legend at Solidworld? Anything in Solidworld you could tell us? Any juicy alpha co-founder Rez?
Well, I think I now am in this position where I have to clear.
Oh my god!
Any alpha?
We lost Rez.
So
he was one of us.
But cool things happening. It's just that's about it. Yeah. But what is happening in the next few months? Do we have any interesting things happening?
What are you
when's Flow Carbon launching?
I talked. This is off the record. Or this was off the record, so I'm not going to give details or who I was talking to. Sure. But I will also say that things are happening. And I think the challenge with all these protocols right now is you have two conflicting motivations. One is you don't want to launch in a shit market. You don't want to launch in a market where everything's tanking, and I understand that. But when somebody like Flow had pre-sale tokens, right? So you also don't want to delay the launch for so long that you piss off your early investors and you lose the momentum of the project. And it's really hard to do because in a way you're timing the market and playing the market. And if you could do that reliably, then you probably wouldn't bother with all the work of starting a protocol. You just become a day trader and make billions of dollars from putting in no work, right? But
exactly.
I think that is...
So you're going to have to do something, right?
Yeah, I mean, in my opinion, the worst thing you can do is not launch after, to lose your momentum. To gain momentum in a project is hard enough. To regain it is almost impossible. So when you have that momentum, you just got to go. And if you launch into a bear market, you launch into a bear market. And, and in a lot of ways you can see it as an opportunity of, if we survive this, then we'll be good for the bull. We'll be battle tested. But I think that's easier said than done. You don't want to launch into the bear market and just see everybody dump your pre-sale tokens. Like, that's not going to be fun either. But what can you do, Rez? I mean, I don't know. Change the macro.
Good question.
Yeah.
Yeah, change the macro conditions. Super easy. I mean, yeah. But yeah, I mean, I'm still looking forward to seeing what happens. I'm assuming the launch is happening sometime in the next few weeks, not weeks, months.
Yeah.
Hopefully.
I would say that's a good yes. All right. Well, we will keep you posted no matter what happens, right? Won't we? Mm-hmm. And we will catch you on the next one. Remember to ape responsibly. Peace, dudes and dudettes.
Peace.
You're CEO now, so now you get the last word.